Welcome to my channel, INTJ Island. Today, I'm going to discuss the difference between shyness and introversion, and 12 things to check to see if you, your friends, your family, including your children, are introverted. There's a very common misconception that introverts are shy and extroverts are outgoing. The reason this confusion arises is because certain traits appear to be common to shy people and introverts, but appearances can be deceiving. In earlier videos, I have used the fictional character Susan Walker from the movie Miracle on 34th Street as an example of an introvert. She didn't have friends running around inside her home, and she was not out playing with lots of children. She specifically called the other children silly to their faces. A shy little girl isn't going to confront other kids and tell them that they are acting ridiculously. Shyness is usually a problem, and it can be fixed. The shy extrovert will often long to socialize and wish that he could jump right in and mingle with others freely. But shyness gets in the way. Shyness is the inability to initiate or to easily continue a social transaction. One of the possible causes is fear. It might be fear of rejection or of appearing to be inept or stupid. Fear will keep a shy person from walking up to others and starting conversations that are very much desired. A shy person can be just as bothered by one-on-one conversations as he would be by group activities. A shy person can be trained to overcome shyness and learn to be socially adept and to easily interact with others in conversation. Learning a few techniques and getting in some practice that ends in success will help the fear to evaporate along with the shyness. In other words, shyness is a problem that can be fixed. The introverted person, on the other hand, is not unable to converse with others. He might very well be quite loquacious if you get him talking on something that he is interested in. You may have trouble shutting him up. What confuses people into thinking that introverts are merely shy and only need to learn how to be more outgoing to change who they are is that introverts are highly selective in their conversations, both in topics of discussion and with whom they will talk. Experience has taught the introvert that most people, if they are allowed to control the conversation, will use small talk to pass the time. The weather, a TV show, gossip, or other nonsense will fill the time, and to the introvert's mind, waste the time that is available. Better by far is to stand alone and enjoy the inner world that every introvert has, which is, by comparison to small talk, a magical kingdom of delights. You can understand the problem others have in seeing the difference. The shy person and the introvert both will tend to avoid conversations, the one because of an inability to interact comfortably, and the other by choice. Most people are extroverts, perhaps as many as 75% of the population. It is similar to the distribution of right-handedness. Naturally, our society is built to accommodate the majority tendency, and we therefore live in an extroverted world, where it is considered normal to be extroverted. Imagine the reverse situation, if you will. You go to a party in a world that is 75% introverted, and you find that the room is fairly quiet, with the occupants broken up into small groups discussing things at a low volume. They often look serious and are listening intently while others are talking. In walks a noisy group of extroverts, and they talk loudly about how nice the sunshine is today, and all the trouble they had driving over to the party. And isn't the punch super? What are the others going to watch on TV tonight? And why is everybody so glum? Let's turn up the music and make some noise. The difference is, introverts can exist within an environment and appear to be transparent. We can move out of the main flow and find our own space. And by doing so, we do not disrupt the extroverted noise. They can dance on the table, laugh loudly, or talk nonsense for as long as they want, and introverts do not interfere with them. The most an introvert will usually do is simply leave. Usually we will find a spot away from the group, and if we are lucky, we will find an intelligent person to talk with, and we don't care if that person is introverted or extroverted, as long as he is willing to discuss something with some depth. Now we know what shyness is. It's an inability to socialize easily and freely. It presents itself by avoidance of situations where conversation appears to be available, and, this is important, it may be strongly desired, but the shy person backs away from it. However, shyness is not introversion. To show the difference, here are 12 signs of introversion to look for. Think of it like you just might be an introvert if 1. You are emotionally drained by general socializing. Introverts tend to use up their energy when they socialize. It is work for us. The introverted mind processes data as it comes in, and this takes time. One bit of data comes in, and we think it over and analyze it, and then store it away in its proper place. But if data is coming in rapidly and from all sides, this can overwhelm us. It is hard work, and it leaves us tired. Extroverts actually pull in energy as they interact with others. It is the opposite for the introvert, as socializing drains you, and the overstimulation can defocus your mind, making it hard to concentrate. It is work for you to engage others in conversation on topics you are not interested in. It isn't only parties, though. Even a day of work where you are interacting with others can leave you emotionally exhausted. When I came home from work at night, after teaching or working with others all day, my wife knew I needed some quiet time to be alone and to recharge my internal batteries. She was bubbling over with the stories of the day that she was dying to share, but knew after years of dealing with my depleted emotional state, she would get a much better reaction from me if she waited for a bit. Fortunately, spending time with those who are close to you is not the same. An introvert might enjoy a party if those of his inner circle are there, and he can spend time visiting with them. An extrovert might attend the same party in order to meet new people. My wife and my oldest son share this ability. They can walk into a room full of strangers and come away with a lot of acquaintances or friends. Also, extroverts usually love the noise and all the activities going on around them. It is fun. They are far more likely to fear boredom than chaos. 2. You enjoy solitude and will usually feel lonelier in a crowd of strangers than you would if you were actually alone. You are at home inside your mind. My introverted cousin calls it her cottage by the sea. It is just so. Your thoughts are your comfortable furniture, your cup of tea by a crackling fireplace with the sound of the ocean gently wafting in through the open window. My introverted step-granddaughter enjoys listening to thunderstorms in the background when she is studying. There is peace in solitude, and there is little room for loneliness inside our minds. I am reminded of the scene in a Harry Potter movie where a large group of people walked into a little pup tent, and inside they found a huge space with all sorts of interesting things to do. Harry's reaction was, "I love magic." An introvert's mind is just so. People outside only see your head and your face that is devoid of expression, while inside you have a three-ring circus of ideas going on. I saw a cartoon the other day where an introverted girl is being told by her mother that she has been bad and must go to her room. The girl had a big smile on her face and said, "Okay." That is like trying to punish an extrovert by sending him to a party. To an introvert, a quiet afternoon alone, perhaps reading a good book, or writing one, taking a walk by yourself, or even with someone who shares your love of good conversation, can be delightful, and at the end you feel energized and ready to face the world. And it isn't just leisure time either. When working on a project, that time alone is quality time. It is time that I get the most done. No distractions, just me and my task. Whether it is designing, creating, planning, or brainstorming ideas, having a quiet, uninterrupted period of time will produce the best results. It is like a train running along on a straight track. Speed is easy to maintain, and covering ground can be done quickly. However, interruptions can be like a broken track that derails the train, and I have to waste time getting the train back up on its wheels and moving again. It isn't that you are running away from people, but rather that you are running towards your productive, quiet, comfortable solitude where you are so very much at home. Every introvert has experienced the act of walking into a quiet, solitary space and suddenly feeling the joy of being set free. Number 3, you find small talk to be an irritant. Have you ever altered your walking route at work to avoid running into people who love to talk about unimportant things? Are you good at making up excuses for cutting conversations short when they couldn't be avoided altogether? Have you ever been told that you are hard to talk to, or that you are too serious in your conversations? Do you find people looking at you funny when you start talking about something that you find terribly interesting, but the average person never would have considered given 3 lifetimes? As a rule, introverts have things going on inside that are deep. We spend a great deal of time thinking, and when we share our thoughts, it is very much like taking money from our pockets and giving it away. For what is money but a symbol of our work and production? Our thoughts are more than a symbol of our often hard work of thinking. They are the actual product of our work. They are precious to us, and having our time taken up by mindless chit-chat when it could be used for something so much more valuable is troubling at best. We don't get drained by socializing when we are having substantial verbal interactions with thinking minds. I have often gone to a social event feeling uncomfortable with what I might have to deal with, only to end up feeling upset when I have to leave at the end because I landed myself into an interesting conversation about something significant to my life. Number 4, your inner voice is seldom silent. The most interesting conversations you have are often the ones going on inside your head. You may have trouble getting to sleep because you have a stream of ideas that are being mulled over actively. Your mind never rests. My wife tells me all the time that my mind is always working on something and there's never a good time to interrupt the process. When I write something, either a bit of storyline or an email, I find myself going over what I wrote, sometimes hours later or even the next day, and, in my mind, I will spot errors that I had missed. I almost always go back to check, and sure enough, I left that word out, or I misspelled a word, or I made some other mistake that my mind would not turn loose of. I can remember some key point that I left out of a conversation I had yesterday that I should have included. Or I realize that I had misspoken on one point and it needs to be corrected. An introvert's mind refuses to rest. Like a dog has a need to be chewing on something, an introvert's mind needs concepts to process, things to mentally chew on, and it will find them, either in what you are currently doing or in the past with the things you have already done. Number 5, your friends are few in number but very close. I look back over my life, and at every point along the way, the number of people I would call my friends was always small. In grade school, there was usually one guy I spent most of my time with each year. We hung out at recess and lunchtime, and in the summertime we might do things together. In high school, I interacted with more people, especially the last 2 years, but I really was only close to 1 or 2 people at a time. When I entered the workforce, it continued on the same way. I was never one to go out drinking with the guys, even in the Navy. The time with my friends has always been enjoyable and not at all draining. As with many things in my life, I tend to also focus in my socializing, going for quality rather than quantity. One deep, long-lasting friendship is worth far more than having 100 shallow friends. Extroverts often will widen their field of friends and go for numbers rather than depth. They draw enjoyment from the variety and spontaneous nature of such interactions. Introverts are looking for someone to share deep thoughts and to discuss important ideas, and perhaps to share the same hobbies or read the same books and then discuss the ideas within them. Number 6, you are seen by others as being quiet and withdrawn until they know you better. Others might describe you as being difficult to get to know. It is common for the introvert to be considered shy by those who don't know him well. Introverts are usually standoffish and seldom are noisy or exuberant around others. An introvert can speak very slowly, with many pauses, as he searches for just the right words to express an idea. He may find himself cut off by some impatient buffoon who talks over him. Even an introverted child may simply stop when this happens and grow silent. If you look closely, you might even see an angry gleam of frustration in his eye. The anger usually doesn't last, but the quiet may not depart for some time. However, if you get an introvert talking or debating on a topic dear to his heart, you might find that he can be loud, speak with authority, and be anything but reserved or quiet. If the idea has been fully worked through, he may hardly pause for breath, let alone hesitate to find his words, for they are there before him ready to use. An introvert can be quite outgoing when the situation is right, but he chooses his ground carefully. As a rule, the introvert stands back and watches. He will check the water out closely before jumping into it to make sure there are no rocks waiting beneath the surface. But if the intellectual waters are clear and to his liking, you may find him swimming like a dolphin, and others might not be able to keep up with him. Number 7. You know a lot about who you are. An introvert is no stranger to himself. If you are an introvert, you will spend a good deal of time examining your thoughts, your actions, and how people around you are acting. You look inside of yourself often, almost constantly, and you wonder about your feelings and your own reactions to events. You search for reasons and patterns as to why you do what you do. When an introvert reads a novel, he measures the story, the morals, and the reactions of the characters in the plot against his own standards, motivations, and ideas. It is more than a story. It is an examination of some aspect of life. It may ring true, or it may appear hollow, with little to offer. Introverts are, by definition, focused inwardly, and what is going on inside of their heads is of critical importance to them. We tend to know who we are, even as we are working to improve ourselves. Number 8. You prefer to learn by observation rather than by trial and error. It is far more likely for an introvert to learn how to do something by watching it being done or reading a detailed description of how it is done than for an extrovert. An extrovert will commonly prefer to grab onto something new and give it a go, learning by trial and error on the fly. An introvert will tend to stand back and figure it out first, having it make sense before jumping in. My ESTP wife is a great example of how an extrovert learns. If we get a new gadget, she plugs it in and starts pushing buttons. If she is learning a new software program, she just tries things to see what happens. It is actually painful for me to be in the same room with her as she is puzzling things out, because she sounds angry, frustrated, and is cursing whatever she is working with because it is not doing what she expected. You would think she is in utter misery as she works, but she is not. She loves to do things that way. Her motto is, I always have to do something over at least 3 times before it is right. As an INTJ, my approach is just the opposite. I want to do it right the first time, if at all possible. I will read the manual, study the instructions, and learn what is going on with the device, and only then do I plug it in and start setting it up. If I have to practice a bit before I can do it, I don't want anyone else around. I want to make my mistakes alone, and when I have it right, then I will perform the task around others. Best is not to make mistakes. Second best is to make all mistakes in private. Number 9. You seek out jobs that allow for independent action, and you are not interested in being the center of attention. Since people tend to get in the way of how an introvert prefers to live, it is only natural that jobs that have little social interaction connected with them are more to the introvert's taste. For me, I enjoyed working on electronics. It was me, the broken equipment, the tech manual, and the test equipment. It was usually far easier to do the job without help. Having someone else there tended to disrupt my thought processes. I often just did what I thought would work and only explained why it fixed the problem to the other guy after the fact. Writers work alone, and many other introvert-friendly professions are out there. Computer programmers and computer engineers, and many design-related jobs are great for the solo worker. Artists like my INFP cousin find great peace and fulfillment in creating great works of art. She actually uses sketching as therapy when she is overstressed. Introverts thrive in jobs that would drive an extrovert crazy due to the lack of human interaction. The forever thinking introvert often comes up with an excellent idea at work, but is most likely to share them directly with the supervisor, preferably by email, rather than bringing it up at a meeting. If the idea is implemented, that is the pat on the back he wants. One introverted engineer I knew told me, meetings are the preferred alternative to work. Number 10. You would rather write an email or text message than to talk on the phone. Introverts often prefer the well-thought-out written word over chatting on the phone. Writing can be honed and focused to the point at hand. Talking face-to-face or over the phone can be chaotic and bounce around from topic to topic. And worst of all, things said can be easily forgotten. Extroverts, like my wife, often talk their way through ideas. Sometimes it is only by expressing ideas that they can understand them. This is not at all helpful to an introvert. because it is just noise until the idea takes shape, and noise is distracting to our thought process. In our younger days, I used to ask her to be quiet as we were working through a problem so I could think. Today, I realize that is not possible. She must talk in order to think with many of the problems she is working on. When you are writing, there are only the words to deal with. You have an idea that you wish to convey, and you do it directly without distraction. The only social graces you have to worry about is how you phrase the text. You set the beginning, the depth of coverage of the idea, and the close. You are in control. You don't have to establish a social session, deflect small talk, or find a graceful way to exit the conversation. Number 11. You notice details that others miss. Introverts are natural observers, and this can produce very interesting results. Since we usually process data coming in more deeply, an introvert can notice certain details that others would either not notice or would toss aside as being unimportant. An introvert might pick up a very subtle change in the mood of a friend. An INTJ might pick up on a small inconsistency in the reaction of a system he is observing, and this can lead to avoiding a future failure. An introverted artist can process many details about a work, allowing for very subtle changes in color, texture, form, or image composition that others will find quite moving, but may not understand why. Number 12. You can concentrate deeply for extended periods of time. I can write for hours. I get in a zone and I just keep going. If you're an introvert, you likely have your own hobby or pet project that you can work on for practically forever. One of the reasons we so treasure our alone time is because we are focused inwardly and are constantly working on some aspect of our inner world. It can lead to insights, and even introverted children can appear older, more mature, and even wise when compared with their peers. We seldom look at any idea at a superficial level. We want to understand what lies behind it and upon what foundation it rests. If the idea is important, we want to understand it deeply. Our steps can appear to be slow, but they are seldom misplaced as they land. The I in INTJ is a big part of what makes us who we are. Are you an introvert? Whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, how does it impact your daily life? Does it help to bring you joy, fulfillment, success, or something else you might value? Does it ever get in the way of your goals in life? Please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please click like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you click on the bell, you will also receive notifications when I put up a new video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.